Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Highlight Haven interview. My name is Matthew Heiserman, and today we are joined by a very special guest, a content creator who has accumulated over 119,000 subscribers on YouTube and 52,000 followers on TikTok. Let me welcome Andrew Fenichel to the show. It's great to have you on.
What's up, man? With an intro like that, I might need to hire you as my agent. I don't even know those numbers. You're on top of it. So yeah, thanks for having me.
And in this case, I guess you're John Wall Truther rather than Andrew Fenichel.
That is my new legal name. I'm gonna change it. Hopefully the government gets back to me in the next 24 hours, but that's the update.
Love it. So, for those who aren't as familiar with your work, can you just give us a brief explanation on how you got so invested into sports and gained the desire to share your passion with others?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's kind of a two-part question because, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, I feel like any other kid, I played sports, played basketball my entire life, dabbled in baseball, sucked at it. So, we moved on from that sport. But yeah, like, I don't know, just classic sports kid, loved playing sports with my friends, backyard baseball, dot, like anything, right? And then I think when I first kind of thought about pursuing sports and sports media as a career was around the time I got into high school when my high school did this career day, like field trip, merger infusion of like a program. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically for me, they were like, "Oh, you're doing the school newspaper. How about we send you to a it was a Clippers Rockets game?" And they were like, "Go watch the game, pretend like you're a reporter, and write a story about it." And I was like, "Wow, like this is pretty cool. Like this is a job. People get paid to do this. I would be
Hmm.
doing this anyway."
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, Stephen A and Skip were dominating on ESPN First Take, and I was like, "That's the coolest job ever." Why wouldn't I want to talk about sports for a living when that's kind of what I do anyway with my friends? So, I went to Northwestern, studied journalism there, and did a couple of great internships to help me get some experience. I kind of figured out what I like to do, and I realized that the traditional journalism angle is incredibly important in today's society, but wasn't really the best for my skill set because I very much like the creativity angle and opinion giving. And I like to edit video and I like to create fun, like interesting segments that you might see on Sports Center, right? As opposed to going out and covering these athletes as like a beat reporter, which plenty of my friends do. And so basically, when I graduated, I decided to. I had already posted on YouTube a little bit. I had posted a few videos here and there, nothing ever very consistent, never really had like a great rhyme or reason to any of it. All very cringy stuff too. So kind of don't like to talk about those early videos. But yeah, I decided to go really hard on TikTok and YouTube and social media and post NBA and NFL content. And that was about 2.5 years ago, maybe 2 years and change. And now we're here today. So that's kind of the story.
And it's been great growth through the past few years.
I appreciate that.
Very impressive. So, when you went to college at Northwestern, and you mentioned this on your 100,000 subscriber story that you told, you did a play by play for the baseball team. And you guys took a road trip to Penn State. You vlogged it, and now it's the first ever video that you posted on your channel.
That's
Can you
right.
kind of explain how that experience carved out your future as a YouTuber?
100%. So that was the spring of my freshman year. Uh, Penn State and Northwestern, I think, were the two worst teams in the Big Ten that year for baseball. So the campus radio station was kind of like, yeah, sure, Andrew, you can go do the 10-hour, 12-hour drive out to Penn State to call the games because none of the seniors or juniors wanted to call those. So jumped on the opportunity. Super cool. Play by play is a lot of fun, very difficult. Quickly realized that also wasn't really the part of this industry that I wanted to go into, but props to anyone who does it. And then, yeah, the reason why I vlogged the trip was because going into that summer, I didn't get an internship. I didn't have a job. So I was like, okay, I need something to do. Let's be a YouTuber. I remember thinking that. I was like, I'm gonna start a channel and blow up, right? And so like you said, my first ever video was me vlogging this trip, talking about the behind the scenes, how I prep as a play-by-play guy. I have some footage in there. My voice is like 20 decibels higher because I was 18, and super cool experience. Like that was how I learned to edit video. So that played a massive role in contributing to my future career in this industry. Uh, it first time like really on camera, first time vlogging, and honestly, I would say my takeaway is it's all just you just got to start. People often DM me and ask me like, "Hey, like, what's your advice? Like, I would love to start a channel." And I would just say, great, just do it. It doesn't matter what kind of camera you have, use your phone. It doesn't matter if you have a mic, your phone has a built-in mic, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you have something good to just like if you have it doesn't nothing matters. Just start and you'll learn along the way because, learning by doing the actual activity is my opinion the best way to learn. So, that is like to your point, that is how it all started.
All right. So now, of course, we have to get over to some sports because I'm a sports channel. Of course, you're a sports channel. So you used to live in the Washington, D.C. area, and you're both a big Wizards and Commanders fan. With
Yes,
that
sir.
being said, the NBA draft is near us, and I'm wondering what direction the Wizards might go in the draft, in your opinion, and who you have them taking with the second overall pick.
Yeah, interesting question. I don't think anybody knows. I don't think the Wizards know. I don't think agents know, and that's kind of the point of this draft. People are calling it a weak draft. I just think there's no Zion, there's no Cade, there's no Paolo, there's no obviously no Wemby. Uh, the Wizards should just take the best player available. So if you ask me who I think they're going to take, I wish I had Will Dawkins' number so I could give him a call and ask him what his big board looks like. I don't know. What I would do is my Alex Sarr, I think, is the best player in the draft. That's pretty consensus at this point. It
I
seems
think
like,
I'd agree with that.
yeah, right. Like he's 7'1". He's like Chet light, which is a pretty good player. Seems like he has a safe floor because he can protect the rim and handle and shoot a little bit. And I want to know what you think the Wizards should do too. Right now, in my draft prep, I really like Matas Buzelis out of G League Ignite. I think he's 6'10". He's kind of like a Franz Wagner, or he's got bits and pieces of other guys. I think defensively, I know he's called out Jonathan Isaac as a guy he looks up to. That would be great because Isaac is one of the most versatile defenders in the NBA. But yeah, I mean, between the versatility in his game, where you can plug him in, he can play with Kuz, he can play off ball, he can create for himself a little bit, like we saw at All Star Weekend this past year in Indy, where he hit the game winner actually in the Rising Stars Challenge against some NBA guys. That was cool. I like all that. And then also, I don't know if you saw this, but he called out Zachary Rissachet in an interview, who's another top prospect from France,
Yeah.
and basically said like, "Hey, 1v1 me. I'll prove I'm the better player." I love that, right? You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of confidence I want in an NBA player. So I really like Matas Buzelis. I think he's a great player. I think he's fit for the modern NBA, and I think we could really use him.
And I mean, I definitely think that he would be great. A few players you mentioned that you were wondering who I had.
Mm-hmm.
I think, of course, Sar is a player that I'd really want, but I doubt he'll fall to us.
Right.
And then you did mention Risa, who I honestly think that is most likely the pick if Sar goes number one. I mean, you just have a lengthy wing
Yep.
who great 3-point shooter could definitely make an impact. But I do like the point you made about Jonathan Isaac because I don't think people understand that if he didn't suffer the injuries that he's had throughout his career, he could be an incredible, incredible player, and he still is. But I mean, he'd be much more known without those injuries.
100%.
So it'd be
The
really
reason,
interesting to see where his career was.
like you said, even the reason the Magic's defense was so good this year was because Isaac was finally healthy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess with Buzelis, I gotta just think he has upside on both sides of the ball because we've seen him create offense. He's got a nice jumper. He didn't shoot super well in the G League, but it's also like he's shooting from a further distance than these college guys because the G
Yeah.
League uses the NBA 3-point line. So can't really expect him to be hitting 40% at age 18. And
That's also less of a transition that he has to go through,
bingo,
where these college guys might have a rough shooting slump to start the year.
100%. Reese
And
Shea,
then
though, I mean, look, if Dawkins wants to build the old French squad in Washington, D.C., him and the Law, like we can do that too. I'm cool with that.
and then hopefully Wemby can join us a few years later.
Right, one day.
And then another player I was interested in, Donovan Clingan. He could be really high on a draft board. He could also be pretty low on a draft board. I think for him, his ceiling isn't super high. But his floor isn't super low. I think he's going to be a solid player, and it depends how much you want to bet having a star who could be a bust or just an overall solid player on a team.
I also saw Clingan. I went to Phoenix for the Final Four, and I went to the UConn Open Practice, which is really just a shoot around. They call it an open practice, but it's not like, Danny Hurley was giving away his entire playbook in front of half of, the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. But Clingan was like, he has a nice stroke. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's Karl Anthony Towns 2.0, but like Towns, I think only shot 8 threes or maybe 20 threes his freshman year at Kentucky. Like Coach Cal did not let Cat shoot a lot of threes. I think Clingan has a little bit of that where he's got more to his offensive game than what, the UConn system allowed him to do. So,
and of course, you don't have to convince anyone about his defense.
Right.
It's already top tier. So, moving on to the next topic. One of the biggest topics in sports actually right now is the NBA playoffs. Boston has already clinched a spot in the finals, and the Mavericks are currently up 3-1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The next game is going to be taking place after this interview later tonight. I want to know what you have for the Timberwolves Mavericks series. If you think the Timberwolves could potentially be the first team to ever come back down 3-0.
No.
No.
I mean, obviously there's a chance. I think there's a chance of anything happening, but no, it's 3-1 for a reason. Even last game, the Timberwolves almost gave it away at the end, and Dallas was right there. I said that in a video. Am I cutting out? I think I just cut out for a second. I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah, look, I said this in a video before the series. Love Ant. He deserves all his flowers. But I think people forgot almost, or we're overlooking the fact that at the end of the day, the Mavs have the best player in this series. And it hasn't really been close either through 4 games in Luka Doncic. So, yeah, I think Dallas, if they don't win tonight, I think they win in 6. I think they close it out. The way Kyrie's playing and PJ Washington hasn't even really been shooting well. We'll see if Derek Lively is healthy after that scary play, in game 3, I think it was. So, yeah, I got Dallas closing it out tonight. What about you?
I don't know about tonight. I think the Timberwolves might be able to get another game on them, but I don't see them winning because after all the games in the entire series so far have been no more than 9 points for the winner. Yep. So it's really a toss-up in every game. I mean, the Timberwolves have been as close to being up 3-1 as anyone. So you never know, but
the
Pacers, not great odds.
Pacers could have easily been up 3-1 if you really want to talk about it. Or they could have been up, 3-1. Was it 1, 3, and 4?
And then you gotta wonder what happens if Tyrese is in that series for the last 2 games when they lost by 1 possession.
Yep.
And then so you have the Mavericks and the Celtics in the finals. What would be your prediction for that, and what are some main X factors to watch out for in that series?
Man, you're gonna get the exclusive. My first time giving a prediction. I haven't really made a decision yet, especially in terms of number of games. Gut check as it stands right now, I will say Mavs in 6. And I think it comes down to a very similar reason why I chose the Mavs before this T-Wolves series. Luke is just the best player on the floor. This isn't the NFL. This isn't Major League Baseball, right? It's basketball. Unlike really any other team sport, can be dominated by one guy. And especially when that one guy can completely run and take over an offense like Luka Doncic can. Versus for the Celtics, Jalen Brown's been their best player in the playoffs so far. He won Eastern Conference Finals Player of the Series or whatever the awards called, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So I just between like not really trusting Tatum and also the Porzingis injury thing's a little weird to me. The fact that he's going to come in without really any game prep, I think in game one, we still don't really know. So talk about an X factor, it's definitely Porzingis. And even if he does come back, it's like, do I really trust him to guard a Luka pick and roll? Like, not really, right? And then there's the personal thing too with Luka and KP, which is a fun secondary storyline given how their relationship ended in Dallas. But yeah, I'll go gut check right now. I'll go Dallas in 6. Yeah, Luka Finals MVP. Biggest X factors, I'll say, are Porzingis. I'll say our Porzingis and PJ Washington because PJ is probably going to get the Tatum assignment if I had to guess, and then Derek Jones is probably on Jalen Brown, something like that. So, yeah. What about you?
I mean, I like all that argument that you made, but I'd still have trouble not picking the Celtics to
Mm.
win with how easily they've dealt with everyone else. And then if they do get Porzingis back, even if he's not, even if he's still dealing with an injury, or he's not as good as he was quite before he got injured, still nice to have him back. They have a great team. I'd be surprised if they lose this, but I definitely think Luka, of course, is going to be able to put up a fight because he's Luka.
The one counterpoint I'll make about the Porzingis thing is that, yeah, like obvious train of thought is that you'd rather have Kristaps Porzingis than not. But if you remember the 2009 Magic, I don't know how old you were in 2009, but Jameer Nelson.
I would have been -2.
Yeah,
-2. Yeah.
like Jameer Nelson. Do you know that name? Do you know who Jameer Nelson
Yeah, I
was?
do.
Yeah, so Jameer Nelson was an All-Star that year for the Dwight Howard Magic, and then got hurt, missed pretty much I think the entire playoffs, and then returned for the NBA Finals. And obviously, the Magic ended up losing to Kobe's Lakers, and Jameer didn't have a good. He did not play well. He did not look like himself. And part of the argument is like, okay, well, Jameer was the better player than Rafer Alston or Courtney Lee or Mikhail Petrus or whatever other guards that the Magic were playing. But given that they've been playing so well with their current rotations going into the finals, was bringing back Jameer, like a 60% Jameer Nelson, really worth it, messing up the rotations and the flow. And because if Porzingis is going to be out there, they got to get him the ball, right? He plays differently and he's better than Al Horford. So you can't just treat him like Al Horford. I don't know. I'm with you. Still think I'd rather just have Porzingis, but I don't think it's as simple as just like, oh, they're better with KP, and that's a reason they should win.
And I will say though, the Mavericks have some great players that are great examples of X factors. Honestly, 3 come to mind specifically: PJ Washington, which you mentioned, Daniel Gafford, who's been extremely clutch in this playoffs, and I think there's a debate on whether you even want to call him an X factor anymore because we just have seen how good he is.
You and me know
Yeah,
Gafford, Wizards legend at this point.
it's nice seeing him have this success. And
Yeah,
then there's also Derek Jones Jr., who's played some big minutes in big roles. And I think he's another X factor that you could mention in there.
especially if he can make threes, because
Yeah.
missing all his threes, the Mavs become easier to guard. But they need him out there for his defense. So it's kind of like a pick your poison. And so if he's poisonless and he's making threes on top of the defense, then he's, yeah, like you said, a huge part of their team.
And then maybe the Timberwolves lose the series, maybe they don't. But there's been hype, of course, surrounding Anthony Edwards and the comparisons to Michael Jordan. And I know you're someone who has LeBron James as the GOAT. So I was wondering if you kind of believe in these comparisons and what's your perspective on them.
I mean, so what? Like, I don't really know what people are trying to get at with the comparison that he's 6'6", can jump really high and is good at basketball.
I
It's like,
mean, I'm with you. I get that he's been amazing, but I feel like right now people are just taking anyone good who plays or anyone who plays good in the playoffs, and they're like, "This is the next Michael Jordan. Here's the
Right.
guy to watch." He could be a superstar. He could be a Hall of Famer. That doesn't make him Michael Jordan.
Even the D Wade comparisons, I thought because D Wade's a guy that I'm absurdly high
I
on.
mean, I know you started basically a war
Yeah,
in your comment section with the Kobe Bryant, Dean Wade.
you're not wrong. That might be the single video I've gotten the most hate on ever on my channel. But it's like, can we call Ant Vince Carter first? Can we call Ant, Clyde Drexler first? It's like
Mhm.
there have been plenty of other electrifying two guards that have had, playoff success. I guess Vince, the playoff success, didn't really happen a ton, especially early in Toronto. But point is, like, why are we jumping straight to Michael Jordan when to compare someone to Jordan, it's not really even about basketball at that point. It's you have to have this, like a certain number of MVPs and titles, and it's like sure, Ant does some things that look Jordan-esque, but
Mhm.
if you looked at a Vince Carter highlight tape on YouTube, he'd probably look even more like Jordan. So I don't know. I like let's pump the brakes. Ant's great, but like one conference finals appearance and a seventh place MVP finish doesn't really count as Michael Jordan for me.
And I mean, what I was saying with you take any good player and you compare him to Michael Jordan, we saw that happen with Jimmy Butler. No one's really saying that much anymore.
I will say Ant definitely plays more similar to Jordan than
Mhm.
Butler ever did, but yeah, it's a good point. Like it's
Mhm.
not great.
So now I want to switch over to the main focus of my channel, which is football. Lots of transactions happened in the NFL during this offseason, and I want to get your opinion on specifically the Commanders' moves from both the draft and free agency. What was great, what wasn't so good, and kind of everything in between.
Let's start with the draft.
Mhm.
Thought they killed the draft. I mean, we'll see about Jaden. I'm very optimistic. I've been hurt before. I'm sure you've been hurt before. Like I thought Dwayne Haskins was going to be good. Obviously, the
Rest,
RB3. Yeah,
rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins.
100%. So all the reports so far out of rookie mini camp are all very positive. I met Jaden actually in Detroit uh, last month for the draft. Super nice guy, like checked every box. I don't know. So obviously the draft is going to, and really the offseason in general is going to be defined as how good is Jaden Daniels. But as far as outside of that, I mean, Johnny Newton falling to early second round, and I guess it's probably because of the second foot injury or lower body injury that he has to have surgery on. Still taking him all day out of the University of Illinois. Great player. Didn't love trading out of the Cooper DeJean pick, especially since we gave it to Philly. Any other team out of the division,
I mean, you give Philly DeJean and Mitchell, and now their secondary is looking really nice.
it's like didn't love that. But the fact that we, just purely based on value, turning DeJean into Sandersill and Ben Sinnott. Am I saying his name correctly? It's Sinnott, right? Sinnott?
I think it's either maybe Sano.
Sinote? I don't know. Well, Commanders fans will know his name soon. I'm
Yeah,
sure he's catching
yeah.
touchdowns in the end zone. But point is, purely based on value, that's a good move. Just the fact that we gave it to Philly hurt, and DeJean looks like he's going to be a stud too. But yeah, it seemed like Adam Peters in the front office really just kind of fixed every hole. Um,
And I like especially the Luke McCaffrey pick later on, because in a few years you're gonna have him going or still with Jaden Daniels, and he could be potentially our number one wide receiver. He could be a star one day, and they'll be able to play their entire career together.
100%. And it is funny, Peter's coming on over from San Francisco. I'm sure there's a little bit of, Peters knows his McCaffreys, I guess is my point. So I definitely trust him with that pick. And then, yeah, free agency. Love that they kind of focused on offensive line. Definitely like brought in some guys to bolster the O line for Jaden. Still, I'm a little worried about the line. I think it's definitely still a weakness of the team overall, but yeah, I was very happy. I think the mainstream media acknowledged that we kind of crushed it, which is nice to see because usually we're reaching for 140-pound Emmanuel Forbes, 30 spots too high. But yeah, I'm excited, which is almost a bad thing because being excited about the Commanders feels like it's misery waiting to happen.
You can never get your hopes up.
And yet I
I
still
mean,
will every year.
I also like the Bobby Wagner pick, not necessarily for playing, rather being a mentor to the young guys, especially who he drafted. I think he could end up really boosting their career in the future.
Definitely.
So, so I'm excited about that one.
100%.
And you kind of briefly mentioned that you got to go to the NFL draft, and while you were there, you got to interview a bunch of players. So just tell me what it was like to meet so many talented young rookies and who really stood out to you the most.
Such a cool experience. Huge shout out to the NFL and YouTube for like hooking it up, making it happen, sending me out there. Yeah, the story with that is pretty funny because basically Wednesday they told us to come to they told me basically to show up to this like prospect clinic where a bunch of the top picks were running drills with the youth football kids in the Detroit area. Super cool. And then at one point, one of the like managers at the NFL came up to me and was like, "Hey, like you're going to interview all these players. Like it starts in 5 minutes, and it's Caleb Williams first." And I'm like, "Okay." Like so, I had to like come up with something to ask these guys, and they were like, "Yeah, you get 30 seconds with each guy." So I couldn't, you know what I mean? I couldn't do like this whole long interview. Uh, but regardless, I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like give me 10 seconds with Caleb Williams, and like I feel fortunate. So basically, I decided to ask each guy the question that you probably saw on my channel, which was if you could relive one moment from your football career, what would it be? Thought that was better than like, you know, something they've been asked a million times at this point in the draft process, something that also could like live on forever. And yeah, so cool. Every single guy was super cool too. No one was too big time or no one. The only guy actually who ditched the interviews. Do you want to guess? I don't know if you remember
I
the video, but
I honestly have no clue.
Drake May,
Drake May.
the only guy
Interesting.
who did not come over to do interviews. He ended up doing like group interviews afterwards, but he was the only guy that ditched the individual interviews. So, you know, happy with Jaden, right?
I guess the world will never know what his moment was that he
Yeah.
wants to relive.
Or hey, if Drake's watching this, let's
Mhm.
jump on an episode of Highlight Haven, and we'll
Yeah.
us three will ask the same question.
Yeah.
But as far as who stood out, again, everyone was super cool. I will say Roma Dunze might have been my favorite guy to talk to. He was such a homie. Great interview, good energy, funny, super nice guy, down to earth. So
I mean,
Roma Dunze,
him and
yeah,
Caleb are going to be scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rome's got a fan for life for me now. Just being so cool at the draft.
And I just mentioned the interviews, but as far as the picks go themselves, other than the Commanders, what were your main takeaways? I would also love to hear your opinion on the Michael Penix selection, of course.
Yep. I mean, that's where I was going to start.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty shocked. Like you see it in the video. Everyone should go check that out on my channel. But like, because the first 7 picks were so chalk, right? Which is fine. And I was so hyped up after the Jaden thing. I mean, he literally came to our section. I was with all the Commander season ticket holders, and took a selfie. And there's so much energy that it all kind of like crashed. And then all of a sudden, you hear Michael Penix, like quarterback Washington, going to Atlanta. And I'm looking around, I'm staring over there at the Falcons section. They don't know what's going on. I understand it in the sense that like the only thing that really matters in the NFL when you're building a team is to have a good quarterback for as many like you give yourself as much of a chance as possible to have a good quarterback. And Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles tear, who really knows, he can opt out after 2 years. Penix is a stud. Now, what I don't get is the fact that Penix is one of the older quarterbacks.
I mean, he's going to be 27 potentially
Yeah.
when he gets his first
So
start.
so why not take JJ McCarthy? But also, I don't know. So definitely don't like it. I definitely don't think it's a great pick. And truthfully, people felt really bad for Kirk Cousins. Dude, why? Kirk's the starter. He's getting paid $40 million a year. the guy to feel bad for is Michael Penix. Because, like
Yeah.
you said, he's 26. He wants to go out there and ball, go to a team where he can start right away, and he's going to be sitting for at least 2 years. So I just honestly felt bad for Penix. Even if it works out in Atlanta, it's not really ideal. So yeah, that was definitely a strange pick on a bunch of levels. Other takeaways, yeah, I thought the Eagles definitely crushed it with Quinion and DeJean on day two. Uh, well, I mean, other picks I liked. Yeah, the Bears getting Rome at the ninth pick was a good pickup. Uh, I was rooting for the Giants to take JJ McCarthy instead of Malik, but I think they made the right pick with Malik.
I mean, a few big players that ended up falling. One of them mainly was Dallas Turner, who went to
Hmm.
17. You
Hmm.
put that with a team who already took JJ, and in a few years, Vikings could be looking really nice.
For sure. Yeah, Dallas has got all the talent in the world. He's like an athletic freak. So, yeah. And then, were there any other big takeaways I had? Let me pull up the draft super quick. Who are my other winners and losers? Let me see. Oh, I love the Joe Alt pick at 5. Um, I know there's a lot of like Malik Neighbors to the Chargers smoke, or even like J.C. Latham. I think up until the draft, people were saying he might be going 5. I think Joe Alt is like generational tackle. I think between him and Marvin, you couldn't even go wrong at 4 if you're the Cardinals. So I thought that was a great pick. Brock Bowers to the Raiders could be a lot of fun. See how they kind of use him.
Now, I am a little confused on that one with Michael Mayer because it looked like he could potentially have a breakout year, and then you bring another tight end in there to kind of take his role, I guess.
But also,
I
you
mean,
can
it's
play. I mean, we've seen other teams run, plenty of 12 personnel with multiple tight ends. Like even the Ravens, have done that plenty. So I think you just take best player available. And if Brock Bowers is like a top 5 guy in the draft, you can get him at 13. You do that all day.
now the question is whether I think probably their pick got taken at 12 with Bo Nix. That's probably who they were going to go with. They had to think of someone new right then.
And honestly, I think that's a win because I don't think Bo Nix is. I don't like taking a quarterback when most likely the quarterback's never going to be a top 20 quarterback in the league. Bo Nix could be a fine starter, but a fine starter is not going to win you the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I would have much rather had Brock Bowers and Bo Nix. Um, yeah, I thought Nate Wiggins falling to 30 was sneaky good for the Ravens. Nate Wiggins, he's got a little Emmanuel Forbes in him that he's just like very skinny, very light, and that's a little scary. But at pick 30, I mean, he's got superstar speed, ball
But then
skill.
again, it's hard for anyone to be Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah. See
I
that
mean,
photo that surfaced on Twitter last
yeah,
week of Forbes
yeah,
at his camp, and it looked like the camper was the real NFL corner?
yeah.
That was funny.
So we've discussed some sports. Now let's go on to some fun questions. You mentioned this both on your website and your 50,000 subscriber Q&A. You made it very clear that you love Chipotle. And I need to ask you, what is your go-to order?
Wow. Really dig deep. This is a great question. This is important journalism. This is the real point of this interview. Uh, it's changed. I'll also say to put this out there. I've tracked every single time I've eaten Chipotle since January 1st, 2017. 7 years now. I can tell you how many times, pretty much what I got, and the date I had it. So I've got the data to back this up, but my current order is I go bowl, tortilla on the side. Gotta, get the extra, you get the extra stuff with the bowl, still build your own burrito. Brown rice, basically double brown rice, double black beans, half sofritas, half chicken, or if they have it, I'll do the chicken al pastor. If the fajita veggies look good that day, gotta get the fajita veggies, and then I go medium salsa, double corn, double cheese, and if I'm feeling cool, I'll go guac. Otherwise, wrap it up. That's my order. Go to a few times a week. Can't go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be probably a little concerned to see that list of Chipotle that you've gotten, but that's definitely interesting.
Want to guess
So
my record for times in a month?
we're gonna go with 27.
It's a good guess. There was a month in college where it was uh it was fall 2020, I think. Yeah, so like kind of like end of COVID, but or honestly like middle of COVID at that point. And I was basically living above a Chipotle. My apartment was 100 feet away. And I think I had 29 days in a month, 27 days in a row. Every single day I
I
got a
will
bowl.
I will more than take that guess.
That's a great guess. Probably you get the points.
So also on your website, you mentioned that you enjoyed playing pickup basketball. When you play, what type of player is the most annoying player to play against?
Oh, it's easily it's the it's the short little guy that overcompensates for a lack of height and skills by being like TJ McConnell and crashing the boards. You know what I mean? I don't know if you run into these guys, but yeah, there's always I feel like the guy at the local Y who is just like super fast, moves a lot off ball, and tries to grab every rebound. You know what I mean? And it's like, and me as a guard, like I'm usually guarding the small, shorter guys on the court. It's like I don't want to have to run around, chase you around, especially when like you don't really move like a basketball player. Maybe you picked up the game later or whatever, and yeah, it's like I don't want to have to box out in an open gym run. You know what I mean? I just want to like shoot threes and try to cross people up. So yeah, good
I mean,
question.
I've played basketball for a while, and I'm all usually one of the shorter players on the court, if not the shortest. And one of my favorite things with being this short, a way I can especially contribute is kind of being a Jose Alvarado on defense.
Mm,
I like to do the steals from behind.
nice.
Just guard as well as you can, kind of annoy the bigger defenders. Um, so I do
It's
like
a
to
good
pride
goal.
myself. I do like to pride myself in trying to be a small player that makes a big impact.
But see, that's different. That's totally different than the guy I described
Yeah,
because
I mean, I will say when it comes to boxing out and getting near the rim on a rebound, I either just don't try at all, or I do try and then a big player kind of just reaches over my head and grabs the rebound.
I would say especially in 3-on-3 pickup, the guy I described is annoying because then he can
Yeah,
actually get rebounds. And it's like, oh, I run more basically. I don't want to
yeah,
run. I'm lazy. You know what I mean?
yeah. So on your YouTube description and countless of your videos, it's hard to even say. You use the phrase "don't overthink it." Can you describe? You have the merch on right now,
Let's go.
and I'm gonna have to get some merch soon. Can you describe kind of how you came up with that phrase and why you use it?
Yeah, andrewfenichel.com if you want some merch. I would say I'm not going to sit here and claim I like, you know, brainstormed some brilliant phrase that no one's ever said before. Obviously, like, don't overthink it's a relatively common phrase, but I think I came up with it because truthfully, it was probably because I had to fit a video under 60 seconds. And when I do a lot of these top 10 rankings, at the very end of the video, when I get to the number one guy, I only have a few seconds to make my point. So I probably just said, like, instead of giving an actual reason, I was like, you know, LeBron, whatever, don't overthink it. That's probably the actual answer. But also, it kind of just stuck because I like it since it's kind of like a cocky way of making your point while also being very convincing and you know, like don't overthink it. Get makes the audience like question their own line of
Yeah, I
reason.
mean, I've watched many videos, had
Yeah,
opinions, and then I'm like, well, you clearly disagree by a
right,
landslide.
right.
So like, am I sure this is correct?
See, so like
Yeah.
exactly, it's very yeah, it makes the audience question their disagreement of my take. and I just kind of am able to come across as
I mean,
confident.
it's like you have an opinion so good that you don't even have to share it.
Right. And for what
I
it's
mean,
worth, I don't throw it around. I definitely
mhm,
believe in all the opinions I
yeah.
ever attach to the phrase. But yeah, it's a good question. I don't really have like an origin story of me, late night, 3 a.m. trying to brainstorm some genius phrase. Just kind of happened.
So we're almost done, but I do have one game that I want to play with you.
Let's do it.
And how it works, I'm going to name two players, and I need you to say who you would rather have as your franchise player right now.
Okay. Okay.
So the first two players, Anthony Edwards or Victor Wembanyama.
Victor Wembanyama.
hmm I mean, I think that's pretty simple. Definitely has really high upside, of course. Next one, Devin Booker or Jalen Brunson.
Ooh. Okay, so the question is franchise player.
And by the way, they're both 27 right now.
Yeah. So meaning like who I'm building around for the next decade. That's basically the question. It's not just like
Yeah.
right now.
Mhm.
Uh,
Like if you have to take a player right now to
that's
start
such a good.
playing on your franchise for the next 10 years, who would you take?
See, I think Jalen is better than Devin Booker, but I think I'd rather take Booker because he kind of fits with other stars a little better and his upside's a little higher. So, that's a really good one. But I'll take Devin Booker.
All right. I mean, I know with Brunson, for what we've seen with him so far, he's the number one, and we've already seen Booker play with Kevin Durant, play with Beal in the few games that he's played for what it's worth. Um, so the next one, I have Tyrese Halliburton or Paulo Banchero.
I'll take Paolo. Just he just has higher. I love Tyrese Halliburton. He's never going to be the best player on a title team. Don't think he'll ever finish top five in MVP. I think Paolo could finish top five in MVP next year.
And I know in one of your videos, you predicted players' careers after
Hmm.
that Paulo draft, and you said he was going to be a no doubt Hall of Famer, and it's looking convincing so far.
Stand by it.
And then we have two more, Tyrese Halliburton or Scotty Barnes.
I'll take Halliburton.
Or not. I just said Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey or Scotty Barnes.
Ooh,
That's what I meant
that's a
to
little
say.
more
I was.
interesting.
I just said Halliburton, so then I said
Yeah,
that one.
that's a little more interesting. Ooh, Scotty Barnes is so weird because like he's got everything you want on paper, but he got hurt last year, and the Raptors were just kind of a mess. And it's like, is the jump shot real, or is he really ever gonna be like a go-to scorer? But obviously, he's putting up 20 points a game. I'll say Scotty Barnes, but Sixers fans are gonna hate me, and I don't honestly don't blame them because Maxey looks really good too. But I'll say Scotty Barnes just for the upside.
And then the last one that we have here is Alperen Sengun or Chet Holmgren.
Chet,
Mhm.
love Shangoon, such a fun guy. But yeah, I'll take Chet. Chet's like he's got the upside to be like the greatest second fiddle star ever. You know,
So that's what I have for the interview. But before we wrap things up, I do have one last question to ask. What advice would you give to a young YouTuber like me trying to grow their channel?
have fun. That's
Mhm.
always it's crappy advice because it's not really like hard, it doesn't really mean anything. But no, seriously, it's like, dude, you're clearly killing it. The fact that you're already doing this at your age, when I was your age, I was playing 2K and eating cheese balls in my
Now,
room.
there's definitely
Doing
no question that I'm still doing that.
good, good. Good. But yeah, it's like just have fun with it, try different things. Um, specifically on YouTube, you have to play the game. You have to be consistent in how much you upload. You got to do shorts to grow. You got to focus on titles and thumbnails if you want people to click your video, and that helps with the algorithm. So definitely study what does well on YouTube and how you can make your videos better.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, I can definitely say I've had my channel for less than a year. The algorithm is extremely frustrating.
it's
It's
frustrating
because
to us.
I had one video. It was Justin Tucker video when he broke the record, longest field goal, and it got 10,000 views, and that was my most viewed video. And now I'm making better quality on my videos, and I haven't gotten like past 100 views in probably 25 shorts, maybe.
It's
So
hard.
it's been tough, but you just got to keep trying, really.
Just keep going. That's the other. I would say that's another piece of advice. Just keep going. You know, uh, like when I first started really going hard on shorts, I was posting 4 a day, which is
Force
insane.
day.
And I wouldn't recommend that to anybody because that's insane. And I didn't have a social life, and you know what I mean. Like I just basically committed to like doing that for 2 months. And look, to be fair, it worked. It definitely like got me an audience and into the algorithm. But uh, yeah, just keep going. Don't give up. Everyone can do this. I mean, I would even say, like, look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast was like a nerdy, like nobody in North Carolina, and he just really, really cared, and he dedicated himself to being a YouTuber, and now he's worth billions of dollars, and he's the biggest ever, right? So anyone can do it. Just keep going. And then I would also say, like, especially someone of your age, like younger, going to college will definitely help. You'll meet people, you'll learn, especially if you like study journalism or communications or
I
something
mean,
creative.
right now, I really want to be a play-by-play broadcaster.
So then
So,
college definitely matters,
yeah.
right? If you want to do YouTube, college doesn't really matter as much. But right, like Big Ten Network or ESPN is going to care about where you got your degree. Um, yeah, so like maybe check out like a Syracuse. They have a great play-by-play program, or
I mean, that's actually where I wanted to go for probably 1, 2 years now. That's been the lead.
yeah,
Northwestern, where you went, is also up there, of course.
yeah.
But any school really with good journalism, good broadcasting,
You just need
right?
a chance, right?
Mhm.
You just
Yeah.
need a chance. Work on it's like being an athlete. You got to work on your game. You got to love it, and you got to dedicate yourself to it. And yeah, just meet people, keep doing this, interview people, and build your network. And I'm telling you, you're already so far ahead of the game with all this stuff that I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, that's kind of my general advice.
So, with that being said, I just can't thank you enough for coming on and being the first ever guest on a Haven interview. Means a lot to me. And also, I'd like to congratulate you for only being a few videos away. You're at 995 from 1,000 posts on YouTube. So that'll definitely be exciting when you post your 1,000th video.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Mhm.
I'm curious because I've privated a few videos on my channel, so I
Yeah.
wonder
And I
if
don't think the vlog that we were talking about earlier, I don't think you have that up anymore.
did I remove that one? I
I
removed
think
a bunch of them.
right now, I think the first video that you posted was the then Redskins
Hmm.
season prediction.
On the set of Total Access at NFL
Yeah.
Network. Yeah, that was cool too. But well, yeah. Look, man, I appreciate it. I'm honored to be the first guest. Thanks for bringing me on. This was fun. We got to do it again. And yeah, go Wizards, go Commanders. The future's bright.
And the last words I have to say, always remember, don't overthink it, and thanks for watching.